welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks. Usual suspects, myself, Dakota, Timothy.
How are we?
Rocking the green Post-Fades Cheesesteaks TIC.
Always, baby. I'm not gonna lie. I like shirts that like have that nice flexible cotton fabric.
Nice material.
I gotta give you, the guy making the shirts did a good job, because you know when you get those shirts that just like they make you look stronger and better in shape than you actually are. Like, you know, they just kind of hold you out well. Like, this is one of those shirts. I'm not gonna lie. I do like to after I get a good gym pump in, throw this shirt on it. Like, it's a good, like, you know, it's a good wrap around the body. It makes you looks a little better.
Yeah, Nick said he wears his to the gym, so
it is nice. I gotta say, it's a good, like, you want a flex shirt, like make you look like you got bigger muscles than you are. This is a good shirt for it. And what you got? Another one of your Oktoberfest beers there, starting.
Yeah, working my way through the Yang Langs. What do you got?
Cape May. We went Cape May. I'm in a good Cape May kick, so it's the 10-year anniversary.
You're a big Cape May guy, huh?
I like Cape May. I've been to the brewery. I highly recommend it. It's a good time.
I have not.
Yeah, it's nice. It's on the water.
Is it actually in Cape May?
Yes.
Okay.
That's kind of why they named it.
I mean, you would hope,
brewery.
you know.
Yeah, it would only make too much sense, right?
Yeah, naturally. Did you finish your what was it, your 12 variety pack?
I did, yes. I actually finished it the last time we did the podcast.
Did you make a ranking for it?
You know, I liked, there was a couple I liked. The hazy IPAs were pretty good. The tropical milkshake, and then there was another milkshake one it just was really weird. It wasn't bad. I definitely don't think milkshake was the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah.
It kind of just tastes like a tropical, like heavy IPA, if that makes sense. But I mean,
really, I would have figured a milkshake was a little like smoother or creamier, but it was heavier on the hops. I don't like that.
No, I mean, not heavier on the hops. I mean, like, it was like an IPA, but had a heavy feel to it, like heavy mouth feel, like creamy, kind of like, you know.
That is how I would.
Yeah, that's what I meant by heavy IPA. It wasn't super hoppy, but they had a couple seltzers in there that I actually really enjoyed. They were very nice, light, fruity, and it's good. So overall, can't go wrong. Like you said, you have 12 different beers in a 12-pack. You're going to find something you like.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, I'm not the biggest seltzer fan. It's just very very hit and miss for me.
I like them in certain situations, like sitting out in the sun, being by water. Like, seltzer's delightful. It's just something light, refreshing. I'm a big fan. I'm not drinking them all night, but seltzers are better than any beer you can find, including light beer, to drink out in the sun or in the water. They're just the perfect daytime drinking choice, in my opinion. They're light, they won't ruin you, and they don't, you know, make you feel bloated or heavy.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I thought there was a funny, I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was, I found it. Someone was like, drinking seltzers is like you're drinking TV static while someone in the other room is shouting the flavor of the fruit. Like, it's just nasty.
It's not wrong, but you know what? It's still nice. It does the job and it makes you happy. And I don't drink seltzers if the sun is down. It's only a sun up kind of beverage. If the sun isn't up, then I'm not drinking seltzers. That's just kind of my rule. But daytime, catch me on the beach by the pool, there is no better choice than seltzers.
You heard it here first, folks.
It's the way to do it. No one drinks seltzers after sunset. It's just idiotic.
Just drunk white girls, but
yeah.
All right.
Let's get to the good stuff. We didn't come here to debate whether seltzers are good or not.
This is true. I mean, we definitely could debate that, but that would go on for a while. So
that's true.
We will be doing our top 10 offensive tackles for the 2021 upcoming season. One of the, generally the offensive line, defensive line are some of the more unheralded positions because they're not the fancy skill players and don't have big plays and all that, but you'll see some of the greatest athletes in sports on the offensive line, particularly a tackle, what some of these guys are able to do. So without further ado, Tim, who you got for honorable mentions? I have 4. So
4. I think when we started this, we agreed we would do 2, and somehow yours just keeps creeping up. What did we do? 6? You had 6 last week?
Yeah. I just like to mention, not really just honorable mention, but they're like, just give a nod. Like, hey, these guys doing good job.
You're a big supporter of participation trophies, I'm sure.
I actually, it's funny you say that because in grad school at Temple, I actually had to give a presentation in a law class. Me and my partner, one of us had to take the side for giving out participation trophies, and the other one had to give it for why they shouldn't. And I was on the side for participation trophies.
That doesn't
So
surprise
that
me.
was I had a PowerPoint and everything. It was phenomenal.
Really.
Phenomenal. Shout out Brian McKeever. Him and I duked it out. So
I'm gonna, without even being there, I'm gonna slide on the other side and take McKeever's stance on this.
yeah, probably.
Fair
Yeah, he
enough.
was. I mean, I was like pretty on the fence. Like, yes, in some cases, no, when she hit a certain age, but he was just like stupid. I was like, all right, PowerPoint ended. So
Fair enough. That's all you need to do. That's kind of, I wish some arguments would be like that. When I tell you your points are stupid, I wish I would just stop you and you could just
all right,
correct
nice
from there.
segue there. So let's get into your mention.
All right. So
Yeah.
my two guys, one is a young guy. The other guy is a young guy as well, but he's a young guy that started rough in his career, who is now starting to turn it around, had a very solid year last year.
Gotcha.
So my first honorable mention is actually coming off his rookie season, and it's hard to do better than the rookie season he had. Obviously, you've heard my arguments about, the perks of winning a Super Bowl and how it affects your individual grade. So, you know what, when you're blocking and when you're one of those bookend blockers for the greatest football player to ever play, that is a pretty cool moment in anyone's career. To then go on and win a Super Bowl in your rookie year, blocking for the greatest football player to ever play. That's got to be something, I would imagine that he's already peaked in his NFL career. Like the happiness and joy, I think it's going to be hard for him to replicate after his first season. But
Fair.
Tristan Wirfs, he's an honorable mention this year. I wouldn't be surprised this guy becomes a fixture on this list for the rest of his career. He was very good from the start. That offensive line was very good in general. Obviously, Brady helps him because he never gets sacked and he gets rid of the ball when he needs to. But don't underestimate, the run game was good, especially in the playoffs. He played a big part. Obviously there's a lot of pressure coming in as a rookie and starting one of those tackle spots and protecting for a guy like Brady. So he handled it really well. I thought he was great all year.
I'm surprised. I actually, I also had him in my honorable mentions. I thought you were going to grill me for that. I thought you were going to have him in your top 10. So
nah, you know what? I did think about that. Your voice did come up in my head where,
I'm glad I had that.
Yeah. So, but you know what? It was a rookie year. He was good, but I think the overall offensive line is very good. And I definitely think Tom Brady is any offensive lineman's best friend. That guy gets rid of the ball whenever he needs to. And he's so smart. So, you gotta put that into effect as well, but he's very good. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on this list a lot from going forward.
Fair.
My next honorable mention, he's a guy that struggled a lot in the beginning of his career and kind of turned around. I think last year was kind of the first year he started putting them together. It was in the second year with his new coach. Overall, the offense put it together a lot better, as a whole. Kyler Murray has led the league, it's in sacks. I would think it was his rookie year or the year before that. And his offensive line did not do him any favors when he entered this league. And the Cardinals in general have been a very poor offensive line team. But they kept this guy, gave him a contract, they drafted him and everything. So DJ Humphries, who I believe was a top 10 pick, had a good year. It's just some of the stuff, like he put it together. He gave up 3 sacks, 23 pressures, which is, better than what he was doing. The 7 penalties he had, which is still very high, was also an improvement. He's a very good run blocker. That's kind of what really drew my attention, even put him in the list, is how good he is run blocking. It's because he was third, actually, of all offensive tackles in run blocking from PFF. He had a 90.8 grade, which that'll catch your eyes. The 79.9 in pass blocking, now that's the concern, considering he's a left tackle. And the penalties and the other stuff, which they are an improvement over the other years, they're still not top 10 yet. He's right there. And I think that if he keeps getting better from what I saw last year, I think he could definitely be in this list coming soon. So definitely a guy on the rise, but he's got to do it. Like you said, he's got to do it for me more than once.
Fair enough. I like it. So that was 2. Who else you got?
No, I only did 2. Like I said, I don't do participation trophies.
Fair enough. So I'll just be quick with mine.
I hope
Taylor
so.
Lewan, the Titans tackle. I had him, I think, at number 10 last year. Still a great player. Love the tattoos and the visor look. He's all swagged out on the field, but just had to bump him out a little bit just because I felt a little more talent this time. Tristan Wirfs, like you said, solid rookie year, won a Super Bowl, was a starter on that team, like plugged in. He was plug and play right away. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, last year we did talk about him, and then the Browns offensive lineman who got drafted too. And we said both those guys will probably start for their teams, and if they do well, their teams will have success. So
Yeah,
both those teams did pretty well.
Willis being the guy from the Browns.
Wills and Worst, yeah.
He did good. He's just, I mean, he led the league he led the league with penalties with 11 of them. So that's a lot. I mean, obviously there's other good things to look at. He was durable. He played. The running game was a complete success. And offense in general was a success this year. So, I mean, he's a guy. He's getting better. 11 penalties for rookies, not the end of the world.
No, you'd rather have it early in their career than, later. So those two. Another young guy who's starting to really cement himself as one of the most well-rounded tackles in the league. Taylor Morton from the Panthers. I think he's got. I think next year he'll really turn it up. Cement himself, like I said, as a really great all-around player. Like passing and run blocking, he's doing really well. And then the last guy, just wanted to shout out the Temple boy, Dion Dawkins of the Bills. I think he's a very, very solid starting tackle for the Bills, and obviously helped Josh Allen get a lot of success this year. So
I do like Dion Dawkins a lot. I actually like a lot of the guys you mentioned. Morton was one that, had I gone more than 2 honorable mentions, I would have thrown him in there. But yeah, I think he is on the cusp of a very big year. Now his name's kind of getting out there. Offensive lineman, it's tough. You got to get your name out there first, and then you start getting it's tough to just come in and just dominate and get the recognition right away. You got to kind of be really good to get your name even noticed as an offensive lineman, and then people notice, and then you got to keep it up. So that was. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of times too, especially with tackles, at least from what I recall, we've seen them go from either a bust or an average player, go to another team with a new coaching staff, new players around them, and they've actually changed their careers around. So some of these players, I think one of them in my list is got a new coaching staff around him that helped him, get a lot better. But yeah, it's so hard to just say, oh, he had a really good rookie year, he's going to be great the next 10 years, so.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I like it. Obviously, I mean, Luan was another one. He's not on my list this year. He was number 9 last year.
Yeah.
Again, there's a couple other guys that I liked, but he's stalwart. He's one of those big names that's very good.
Yeah.
But with that said, let's get into my top 10.
Let's get it cooking.
So it's funny because I didn't even realize this until I looked at my list from last year. My 10 and 9 are 2 guys that I'm pretty much going to say the same exact thing about, because they're both, I think, elite players coming off injuries from last year. And they're veterans. On the other side, they're getting up there in their career, but I still think they're elite tackles. And how funny this was, I had them at number 5 and 4 last year.
I think your 10 and 9 are my 8 and 9.
In exact order. It was my 4 and 5 last year, and I just moved them to 9 and 10 this year. But the first one being number 10, I went with Lane Johnson, the right tackle for the Eagles. He's an elite right tackle. He's one of the best in the league. He's arguably been the best in his career when you look at it. I believe he's 3-time Pro Bowler, an All-Pro thrown in there as well.
Yeah,
him it's just the injuries, and again, it's one of those things, especially with offensive linemen. I feel like you notice it more than anything is when they're not on the field. You notice how important they are when you see what their backup is. When you see how much different and how much more challenging it is for the offense to succeed when that guy's off the field. And I think that's Lane Johnson. We've seen it, and even when he was suspended, we saw that was the last time I think he really missed some major time.
Yeah.
And they struggled. And obviously the Eagles have had a lot of injuries over their time on the offensive line in the last couple of years, him being one of them. And he's still, I think, an elite offensive lineman. He's only 30 years old. So I think he's still got plenty of time to keep going. His PFF grade pass blocking wasn't bad at all. It was, I think, 12th overall. It was an 83. It was the 59.7 in his run blocking that really killed him. He did not have a great run blocking year, but that is also something that I think is more of an anomaly. I've seen him be a very good run blocker for most of his career. I think that one year was maybe just, listen, his guy right next to him, his tag team partner, was out before the season even started. I do think that hurt him. when Brooks went down. But
Yeah.
this is me banking on he's healthy next year. And if he's healthy, he's an elite offensive lineman.
I agree with all those things. I actually had, like I said, I do have him in my list coming up soon. But my number 10 is a guy who I actually just kind of touched on him, was almost at bust level for a while. And then this past season had a nice bounce back campaign. I think a lot of it was attributed to like new coaching staff around him, new offensive line coach and stuff. So, and I think that offense is poised, depending on the quarterback play, to be really solid. And I hope so, because one of the receivers is on my fantasy team. But I'm going with Garrett Bowles of the Denver Broncos here at number 10.
Okay.
Second team All Pro this year. So, obviously was very well guarded this season. PFF actually had him at a 90.6 grade, which was third at the left tackle position, or right tackle, for coach side he plays on. He also had what was this? Before I get dyslexic on us.
Here we go.
I was gonna try and cliff note it, but I'm just gonna read it because it's messing up with my brain. He led all tackles on the year in total starts with one or fewer pressures allowed, which was at 12, which was third best among that group. So basically, he holds his blocks. He's not preventing people from getting to the quarterback, and AKA Drew Lock, giving him more time to hopefully get better. But yeah, I
touchdown Teddy now. They already went with Bridgewater.
Really?
Yeah, where you been? You didn't see him? You're too busy listening to the Kanye West album.
I was listening to Kanye West all day.
Touchdown Teddy's the future.
Wow.
Well, at least for this season. I mean, Drew Lock's pretty bad. I really think that he must have been terrible, because you really think that the Broncos really wanted him to work out. I mean, they didn't draft him too high. It was second round, I think it was. But you know what? There was weapons there. Yeah. There's an offense there. I think the team in general is ready to go. It's just they're missing a quarterback. And I think they really wanted Luck to work out, and he must have really laid an egg, because they did announce that touchdown Teddy's going to be the starter this year.
Well, look at Tim with the insight. I didn't know that. I don't follow the Broncos that closely, but I did not see that. I think that's the right move. I think Bridgewater is better. Bridgewater's not bad. Like, he wasn't bad with the Panthers. He just wasn't helping them win games when they were in close games. He just couldn't finish.
He's not going to win you games, but he's not going to lose you games. And
I agree. Listen, that's a good way to put it.
I listen to everything. I know what's going on, everything in this league with all 32 teams. I do it for our fans. I see you're not, up to date and prepared, but hey, who's surprised by that? I do it for the people that listen, that I'm educating. I would be insulting for me not to come prepared every time. So here I am with more knowledge than anyone could ever dream of. So is that the end of your number 10?
That is the end of my number 10. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. So like I said, Tyron Smith, my number 9, he has a similar argument as Lane Johnson, an elite offensive tackle. There is no question about it. Again, another guy coming off injuries. He played 2 games last year, but this guy was he was a Pro Bowler the last 7 years in a row before the injury year, with 2 All-Pros thrown in between. The last 4 years before this year, this 2020 season, he played 13 games. So he obviously started showing some injury problems. And I mentioned that when we did the rankings last year. I think that's actually why I bumped him out of my top 3, was the injury concerns, because they were starting to pop up. This year, obviously, or last year, obviously, he missed pretty much the entire season, which you saw with the Cowboys. They suffered mightily. Zeke had the worst year of his career. They really couldn't do anything on offense. Obviously, they lost Dak, but I think losing the offensive line was a huge part of that as well. Again, going back to what I said, like, you appreciate offensive linemen more when they're gone. But this guy he's been arguably the best left tackle in the NFL in his career. He's, again, 30 years old, just like Lane Johnson. But I'm still banking on, when he's out there and he's healthy, he's still an elite left tackle. I'm more worried about his injury history now and him going forward. Obviously, I was worried about it last year, and this year he didn't do anything to, prove me otherwise. So that is definitely a concern, and that's why he's down. He is a top 5, top 3 talent easy. It's just the injury concerns that bump him down. And I can't confidently say that this guy's going to stay healthy a whole year, because I wasn't even saying it last year, and then he went and had the worst injury of his career with the neck surgery, I believe it was, which is never anything good. You never want to see a neck injury. I think we talked about that with Danielle Hunter, who had a similar injury. Necks and backs, man, do not do anything with the necks and backs because those are injuries you don't want to deal with. I think nowadays, I mean, with where modern medicine is, I wouldn't be surprised if we have just a vitamin athletes can take when they tear their ACL just to grow a new one overnight. But the neck and the back, those are the things that really trip you up. But that's why number 9. Who'd you got there?
Yeah, no arguments there. So I got my 8 and 9. So I'll cut the line here. So my 8 and 9 are I like to call them the six-pack brothers. Oh. So we got Lane Johnson at number 9, the Birds, and then at number 8 I have Tyron Smith. So we're very close. And so so I mean, honestly, I don't have anything else to really add. I think you all hit them on the nail, but it was really just I think I had Lane at 4 and Tyron Smith at 3 last year. I just looked at it and I was like, there's only so many times you can say, well, this player is fully healthy. They're the best at yes, those two are elite tackles when fully healthy. But matter of the fact is they have not been fully healthy. And Lane hasn't played a full season in 4 seasons? Yeah. He just cannot stay on the field. So I can't keep putting him top 5 if he's only going to play 8 games a year, It's so I mean, in the games he played last year, he only allowed 1 sack. He only had 2 penalties. And overall, his pass blocking was really good, ranked out top 80s, across the board with rest of the tackles in the league. But it's just like you said, he's getting older. He's just always having ankle problems and stuff. So I had to put him at 9. And then Tyron Smith. Funny story how I actually figured it. So last year I made the joke about Lane Johnson having a 6-pack, and then I found out Tyron Smith entered training camp also with a borderline 6-pack. Because I was looking through, I had my list, and then I always look through rankings to see where other people had people, and I was like, where's Tyron Smith on all these lists? Nobody had him in the top 10 for a lot of these. PFF had him in the 20s, I think, or the 18s or something. Yeah, and I'm just why are people just sleeping on him all of a sudden? He's a veteran. He's always been top 5. He's just been a little injured here and there. Somehow I came across Tyron Smith off-season 6-pack pictures. Not that I was in my search results, but
I doubt that. But go on.
Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't search that specifically. Trust me.
I would assume if I go on your Google search history, it's offensive lineman 6-packs, close-up shots of shirtless offensive linemen. I just honestly in life, I just want to find someone that looks at me the way you look. The way you look as happy as you do when you talk about offensive linemen with 6-packs, you glow up, you brighten up. The smile is so big. It is good to see. It's refreshing.
No, but when you envision an offensive lineman, tall, beer gut, and then you see if you saw Lane and Tyron Smith just without a shirt on, with their football gear, you would not. I feel you'd think they're maybe defensive end or a linebacker, not a offensive tackle. I just think it's cool to see. Even Brandon Brooks, I know, was in really good shape. He was doing jiu-jitsu or something. A lot of these offensive linemen, it's not. They're just using their size to to their advantage. It doesn't mean they're fat. A lot of them are just strong as hell, and then just to keep up with that size, they need to be heavy. So, but
it's true. Hey,
those two at 8 and 9, but I don't ever see them playing a full season anymore just because of how, the history and their ages now. But if those two played a full season, I guarantee you they'd be top 5 again. So
I'd agree with you. I think next year we should just have Dakota's top 5, offensive line 6-packs in the league.
Top 5 offensive tackle bodies in the league.
This is something for you. I think this is something we should look into. Do a whole body episode.
Hey,
You'll be all over it.
No offensive line shaming on this.
No. Just let them know. Listen, I'm sure. Hey, I don't know how many people would buy Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition of Offensive Lineman, but I know that they have one customer in Dakota. I can promise you that.
What was it? It was ESPN the magazine when that. I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but a couple of years ago they had the Eagles offensive line.
The body issue.
You remember that?
Yeah, the body edition. Yeah.
That was.
You were probably ear to ear happy there.
I did not. I never got a copy. No.
Really? I would have assumed that the posters would be hanging on your wall.
No, but if you want to get that signed from me, I'll gladly hang it up right here behind us. It'll be a nice centerpiece for the podcast.
Honestly, your living room does look like it needs a little naked offensive lineman hanging on the wall.
Probably.
All right. So it's actually funny, and I hate to disappoint our guests because I feel like most of them like when we argue and I have to put you in your place, but we had the same exact 9, 8, 10, just in different orders. Because my number 8 is Garrett Bowles.
Well, there you go, people.
And
we're in agreement.
What's even worse is, again, and I'm going to say the same thing with DJ Humphries. This was a guy that struggled a lot in the beginning of the year.
He was bad.
His first 3 seasons, he gave 14 sacks. That's pretty tough. When we're talking about elite offensive linemen, they're not giving up any sacks in a whole season. No. He just looked really bad, looked uncomfortable, did not look like he knew what he was doing. And this year he blossomed. He excelled. He looked great. No sacks allowed. Yeah. I think he only had 13 total pressures. He was improved a lot as a run blocker too. And that's what's most impressive. He might have had one of the most impressive, like his PFF grade was top 3. But you look at the splits, the 88 in pass blocking and the 87 in run blocking, that's very consistent, very solid. He was only behind my 1 and 2 in overall PFF grade. So I think that just shows you how strong his season was. Yeah. And like you said, the fact that he's got a young, inexperienced, often erratic quarterback back there who doesn't make good decisions. And he's still, Drew Lock's probably going to be prone to holding on the ball too much. You're, missing a read. He just shows that he's not really excelling at reading the field and making correct decisions and getting the ball out when it needs to go. And having a quarterback that struggles like that, I mean, that's even more impressive that he's able to hold these blocks and would be successful. He was number 82 in the NFL Top 100 countdown, which I thought was pretty good. And again, we mentioned this with Humphries. It's almost like now his name's on the radar. Now we want to see what's going to happen now. Yeah. Because now teams are going to focus on him. They're going to make plans to pass rush him with, maybe a couple stunts, maybe more than one guy. I think he even, if I'm correct, he was a second team All-Pro this year as well.
Yep,
so
he was.
Big banner year for him with awards, top 3 in PFF and second team All-Pro and top 100 for your peers. So that's respect from the writers, PFF, and your peers. So that's all around great season. So number 8 for me. I just want to see him do it again. And I don't want to take that because that's like a phrase that you live and die by. But unlike when you use it with, second year awesome superstar players, I'm using it for a guy that struggled for the first 3 years of career and had one good year. So I want to see it a little bit more. I do think he can do it. It's just, let me see it again.
Yeah, we'll see.
He's at number 8. Your number 7 is?
Do you want to switch back since you started? Do you want to go into your 7 or do you want me to go?
Oh, sure. You know what? We can go back to me. That's fine.
I'm a gentleman,
you have your moments. Let's say I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Usually you're the one that skips me, and I'm trying to make sure I stay in character. I don't want to become you. So
fair enough. Well, you do a good job of staying in character. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
All right. So my next guy, he was a top 10 finisher last year. He was actually number 8 last year. I bumped him up 1 spot this year.
Okay.
I don't know if that was entirely intentional, but it was just kind of how it worked out. Another guy who, like Lane Johnson, had an incredible difference in pass blocking and run blocking stats from PFF. He had an 86 in pass blocking, which was 4th overall by PFF. And honestly, his pass blocking has been his bread and butter since he's entered this league.
Right.
I think he was one of the top 10 pass blockers when he was a rookie. Mm-hmm. His run blocking, on the other hand, at 62% is left a little bit to be desired. But to be fair, he's on a horrendous team. And his pass blocking numbers are even more impressive because I think his quarterback's the guy that holds on to the ball too much sometimes. He's got a quarterback that's an absolute superstar, and he makes those plays where he holds onto the ball, runs around, and makes an incredible strike. So you're like, oh, this guy was a genius for holding on to the ball. But there's also a lot of times where he holds it too long. The team's in transition, but this is obviously still an elite player. So my number 7 is Laramie Tunzel.
Okay. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, so I didn't know if you were going to announce a player. I thought you were going to go like Dwayne Brown of the Seahawks. And I was like,
I thought about it, but Dwayne Brown, I think, is more on the downside of his career. So I don't know how confident I am in him going
also
forward.
A former Texan.
It's true. So. But Laramie Tunzel, he's been arguably a top 10 offensive tackle since he's entered the league as a rookie.
Yeah.
Obviously he was part of that huge trade that just keeps on netting draft picks for the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can honestly say that the downfall of the Texans and to where they are now as arguably the worst run franchise in NFL football right now probably started with that trade. Yeah. Nothing against Laramie Tunzel. He is a superstar player and he fit a huge need the Texans had in not getting Deshaun Watson killed. But, it's hard to justify to give up 2 firsts and 2 seconds to then sign Laramie Tunzel to the largest offensive tackle contract in NFL history. That's a lot to give up for an offensive tackle. And don't get me wrong, the offensive line is very important. But, man, you're talking about something that at the end of the day, do the Texans give up for more for Laramie Tunzel than they're going to get for Deshaun Watson? I mean, you're at franchise quarterback territory giving up that many draft picks.
It was a king's ransom to get Laramie
Tunzel. It just made you feel like obviously everyone knew that the Texans needed offensive line help because Deshaun Watson was kind of the situation Joe Burrow was in this offseason where he was getting crushed and killed. And he was a young quarterback with a lot of promise. But it just makes you feel like, did they even try to negotiate? They just must have said, hey, told all 32 teams, we need an offensive tackle. And the Dolphins are like, well, hey, here, give us this, and that for Laramie Tunzel, and he's yours. Like, all right, done. Okay. Yeah, I like the guy, and I think he gets graded too unfairly because of the trade, because obviously he'd have to be like
to live up to it. Essentially,
he'd have to single-handedly be bringing them to the playoffs to live up to something like that. And obviously, after what the Dolphins have been able to do with the draft picks they got and keep on getting more draft picks, it's just even more impressive. But overall, he's a very solid offensive tackle. I like him in that 7-8 range. The run blocking can improve, but obviously he's on a very bad team, so we'll see. But I still think he's an elite left tackle in the game.
Fair enough. I do have him on my list. He's coming up shortly. My number 7, though, is a 2-time All-Pro who just had his first season finished with his new team after he got the bag.
Nice. Always good to get the bag.
Yeah. He was formerly of the Tennessee Titans with that ferocious running game.
Okay.
And then he came over to Cleveland.
Wow.
And left his mark and helped establish one of the best running attacks I've seen in a while and one of the best offensive lines in football. So I have Jack Conklin at number 7 on my list.
Okay. No big arguments. He's on my list. We'll get to him in a little bit.
Yeah,
I do like Conklin a lot.
Good numbers. I mean, PFF graded him out 84 overall, 82 passing, 78 run block. So well-rounded tackle. He played 999 snaps. Only had 2 penalties and 2 sacks. It's pretty impressive. He's just, sometimes you see, especially with offensive linemen, you'll see them get that big paycheck, with another team. And then they kind of either fall off or they just don't perform to that level. And he, I think, exceeded expectations. So, but yeah, not too much more to add. I mean, when you had a 1-2 punch like, Cleveland had and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and see the success. They had an open field. They did half the time. They didn't even have to juke anyone. They just.
It's true. Yeah. Easily the best offensive line. Yeah. Like easily the best offensive line.
Yeah. So that's my number 7, Jack Conklin.
All right. Fair enough. No complaints there. My number, where are we at? Number 6.
We're at 6 now.
Right tackle. He dropped a little bit from last year where I actually had him ranked number 2 overall. And I feel like it's kind of unfair to criticize him because he definitely dropped off a little bit, but he wasn't like bad or dropped off really that far. It's just, I think the year before was just unheard of what he was doing.
Okay.
So he was a second team All-Pro this year, only gave up 2 sacks. And that is 2 more than he gave up the year before. So you're talking about 2 sacks in 2 seasons. And like, again, 2 sacks is not bad. That's not bad at all. But considering you gave up 0 the year prior, it's a down year for you. So this ranking kind of hurt me because I feel like I pulled a Dakota and bumped him down for no reason. He went from number 2 to number 6, and I really can't justify it, but it wasn't his best year, and that's the way I'll put it.
Sure.
His PFF stats weren't the greatest either. Again, comparing himself, to him.
Himself, yeah.
Yeah. But I went with Ryan Ramscheck.
Look at that.
Yeah, he was 75 on pass blocking, 80 on run blocking.
That was number 6 for you?
Yeah, he's still very good. I mean, it's impressive what he does blocking as well, because you're blocking for a guy like Drew Brees, who is completely immobile, and then you're also blocking for a guy like Taysom Hill, who does a little bit of everything. He's obviously, I think, a part of the best tackle duo in the league, with his teammate coming up on my list at another time. But again, this is when I made my list, there's always that guy you just don't feel confident about. This was the one I didn't love where I put him, but it's kind of just where it worked out. And again, I just think I punished him more than I should have, comparing him to his other incredible seasons. But he's easily top 6. I'm sure you have him higher than I do, and I won't argue a second about that. But very good. You could say, I think obviously we mentioned beforehand Mitchell Schwartz wouldn't make the list, who was my number 3 last year because he's not currently on a team. Right. You're talking Ryan Ramscheck is the best right tackle in football. At least on my list, the way my list worked, he is the best right tackle I'd ranked. And it's stupid to hold it against him, but I definitely think that there's more weight in being a left tackle. They get paid more. They get better pass rushers. They protect the blind side. So I think maybe that kind of came into a little bit more of my argument, but he's the best in his position in the NFL. And regardless of position, he's one of the best offensive linemen in football as well.
I agree. I do have him coming up soon too. My number 6, I'm not going to spend much time on this guy because you actually just mentioned him a little bit ago. I have Laramie Tunzel at number 6. So he actually moved up a couple spots in I think I had him at 8 last year, if I'm not mistaken. I had him at 8. But basically I just looked at it like his penalties still aren't great. He still gave up 6 penalties, but I think the year before it was like 10 or 11. So
yeah, he did.
At least he brought that down a bit. Still one of the best pass blocking tackles in the league. His run blocking, a little bit to be desired, like you mentioned. But overall, like his just athleticism, his quickness, he's just very talented. And I think because of that and because of what, again, like you said, he was given a king's ransom to be sent to Houston. I don't know if he's lived up to that 100%, but without a doubt, a top 10 tackle. And I just think, I think going in this year, he's just going to be at that top 6 level. I think he's going to continue to keep the penalties down. And with a mobile quarterback mobile quarterback like Bridgewater, the sacks will probably stay low, just like they did with Watson. So now I'm not Bridgewater. Now I'm getting my running quarterbacks mixed up.
You're all over the place.
He still has Watson. So yeah, he'll. We'll see if he's going to play, but yeah, I think Tunzel will be fine. So
fair enough. Yeah. One little note.
I don't know how I just got over to Bridgewater. That was really weird.
Listen, I don't know where your mind goes. I don't know how it gets from point A to point
B. I've only had one beer.
Trust me. Even when you're stone cold sober, I still think that. Before I get to my number 5, I believe we're on. Yeah, number 5. I do want to mention one other thing goes to Ramscheck. Like I said, he went from 0 sacks to 2 this year. He went from 4 penalties last year to 5 penalties this year. So yeah, it wasn't his best season, but again, those aren't bad numbers. Really his 5 penalties were half of the amount of penalties that Donovan Smith, aka the left tackle, the Super Bowl winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers had. So yeah, it's hardly something to kill him on. But so my number 5, guy you actually mentioned already.
Oh,
and I think that maybe Ramscheck's coming up, and I think we kind of swapped these two guys in our orders. He was number 10 overall from PFF with a solid 81.5 in the pass blocking grade. This one I don't believe. This one I'm now about to throw PFF out the window and not buy into it because this just doesn't make sense to me. He had a 78.8 run blocking grade. Considering he was part of, the best offensive line unit in football, he was a first-team All-Pro, and he was part of one of the most deadliest rushing attacks I've seen in a while. I don't buy that stat. He obviously, you mentioned him earlier, got the bag and is balled out since. He's part of a great unit, and I think that unit's only going to help him going forward. So when I talk about his future and coming into the second season, I expect more of what he's given me his entire career. From Tennessee to Cleveland, he hasn't missed a beat. He's been incredible at both spots. So Jack Conklin is my number 10. He's a guy that...
You're number 10 or you're number 5?
Oh, I apologize. My number 5. He's a guy, like we've already said, obviously when you get the bag, people take notice. Yeah. And then obviously once they see you get the bag and they take notice, you come out and you're first team All-Pro and you're part of a dominant offensive line group. Yeah, I mean, he was on notice and he excelled. He came out bald. He's bald his entire career, and I think he's going to keep on doing it. So, I mean, you can make the argument that maybe the unit that he's part of, which is the best in football, helps him, but this guy's done it in two different teams. The Titans had a nice offensive line too, but don't take it away from this guy. He's been a baller.
Yeah, that line's hard to, because this, like, same thing with Tyron Smith and Lane. Like, they both play on top 10 lines. We're not going to punish them, but I did slightly. I mean, Jack Conklin went from a phenomenal Titans offensive line to a phenomenal Browns offensive line, but I think he had more to do with making the Browns line phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. And
I'm not too. I don't. 5's fine. I don't think that's too high. So
it wasn't even on my list last year. He broke right in, but
it wasn't on my list either.
Listen, first team All Pro. You had a big part of what turned around the Browns. Let's be honest. What's the most important part of the Cleveland Browns right now? It's probably that offensive line, because they run the ball, they don't pass, and that's why Baker is in a great element there. Because I don't think Baker's a bad quarterback. I think that Baker's in the perfect system for him. It's similar to the Tannehill and Cousins, where they're run-heavy teams that can succeed on the ground and let them make plays, the quarterbacks, off of what they get off that. And you know what? That run game, they have great running backs with Hunt and Chubb, but that offensive line just plows over people and makes it very easy for them to find holes.
Fair enough.
So your number 5?
So my number 5, this is the first of my teammates. Okay. Back-to-back teammates coming. And it's a guy you just mentioned who I had at number 9 last year. So I think last year I was a little rough on him.
You were. I just love when I killed you, which I did kill you on this last year. I didn't stop. That was the main. There's always a stupid thing that Dakota always does every episode, and I'll give you this. You haven't done any of that yet, but that was your stupid thing that you did in the last episode, and I murdered you for it. And I love when we come a year later and you accept the fact that you were completely wrong. So go ahead. Please tell me what I tried telling you last year. Go ahead.
Don't. Hey, I'll let you have that one player, but I already know on your list, 2 of your players that you had a lot lower are now higher, and I had them higher last year. So you're learning from me too. Good to see.
We'll see. I don't know if I'd go that far, but go ahead. Tell me something.
Oh, my number 2 last year, I think, is in your top 2, and he was a number 6 last year. So
we'll see.
Anyways. So I have Ryan Ramscheck here at 5. For all the reasons you said, I think, it's funny that I have him higher than I did last year, but I think that's just based on some other players that may have maybe dropped off, or like I said, with Lane and Tyron Smith, is just injury concerns. But Ramscheck, believe he's going into his 5th season now. Just been him and the next guy I'm going to mention has just been a monster together. He's 6'6", 314 pounds of pure animal. He actually, so like you said, last year he had a 90.8 overall grade from PFF, which was first among tackles.
Yeah. And
then this year it dropped all the way down to 81.6, which, 81.6 is still very good. It's just not, like you said, up to his standards. But that being said, I just saw a stat. So since 2006, there's only one other offensive tackle that's had higher grades in their first 4 seasons from PFF, and that was Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer of the Browns, one of the best tackles to ever do it.
Very true.
So he's definitely on a great pace there. And PFF's not the end all be all, but it's great for borderline stats and getting a good idea of where players fit in. I mean, PFF's been wrong a lot too, but
yeah,
for the top elite players, they're pretty consistent. And Ramscheck's an elite player. But I just have him a little farther behind his teammate, who I also had higher than him last year. So who you got it for?
My number 4.
It might be this guy.
I think it actually is. So number 4, and again, I had him, number 7 last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just like his teammate last year he didn't give up any sacks. This year he was an incredible pass blocker, as he has been his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
He was number 5 overall in pass blocking from PFF. I think he was number 7 overall offensive tackle in general from PFF. Okay. So a very solid season. What I really appreciated from him, because this guy's been an injury concern. 2016 he played 7 games, 2017, 2018, 10 games a pop. He had 15 games last year, which was what you wanted to see. He dominated an elite year from. This year he played 14. Missed a game or two, but that's ultimately he played the whole season. Had another Pro Bowl season. Continued to excel. He cut down on his penalties, which I really appreciated, because obviously it's 0 sacks last year, which you can't kill him on, but he had 6 penalties, which is not ideal. He had 2 penalties this year, and was a part of another successful offensive year. And again, I seen things I said about his teammate Ramscheck. You're blocking for an immobile quarterback, but you're also blocking for a very unorthodox quarterback, and he gives you a little bit of everything. He's not the best run blocker in the league, but this guy is an elite pass blocker, and he has been for a while. But his run blocking, like Tunzel, I kind of killed a little bit because his run blocking is pretty awful, but his pass blocking is elite. Yeah. Tyron Armstead, who I have in number 4, he's an elite offensive pass blocker. His run blocking was a 77 on PFF. It's not bad. It's definitely something you can live with. But match that with his elite offensive or pass blocking, and that's just what you want in a left tackle. I gave him a little. It's weird, and I feel about it kind of bad because Ramscheck had a down year compared to the year before, but that doesn't mean this past year was a bad year. Just the other year was just out of this world. Armstead, I think, did improve from last year, but the improvement is what you want to see. He's more healthy, which was the most important part, and he's a solid elite pass blocker in this league, and a left tackle. It's what you want. And I'll be honest, I graded the left tackles a little bit higher than the right tackles. Just because, listen, you're going against the best pass rushers every single game. Everyone knows it. That's where they put their best pass rusher, and you got to stand up and do it. And he's one of the elite pass blockers in this league, and that's why I put him there.
Yeah, I mean, my number 4, also Tyron Armstead.
Oh, look at that. We've agreed way too much on this list.
I don't like this.
Way too much.
But I'd like to point out, I had him at 5 last year, ahead of Ryan Ramscheck, and you and I think it was Billy was on. Both grilled me for having Armstead ahead of Ryan Ramscheck, and I gave you my reasons why. That I think he's just been more consistent. He's just a better skill set. He's more talented.
Oh, hold on.
The injuries have been a little bit of a concern.
Do not bring up this argument again. Do not bring this up from last year because you were idiotic for what you're thinking that year. And I'm letting you go now. You're doing a very good job now. Don't rehash the past and go back to your idiotic ways. Don't try to defend something that you knew was wrong.
I don't think it was wrong. I still stand. That's why I still had him ahead, because I still stand by what I said. Maybe for season wise, yeah. Ramscheck had a better season, but I ranked him as, what is your, credentials? Oh, what'd you do last year? What are you going to do for me this year? That's how I would rank them. So I still had Tyron Armstead ahead, but yeah, I don't really have much to add. Those two have, I feel like, kind of quietly been the best duo of tackles in the league for years.
Oh, I mean, it's hard to talk about the offensive line of the Saints when you have Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, and Drew Brees. I mean, what do you? Galvin Kamara's rookie year was offensive rookie year, rookie player of the year. Michael Thomas went offensive player of the year in the NFL, and then Drew Brees is a walking Hall of Famer. It's hard to mention Ramscheck and Armstead when you got those guys just doing their thing.
Yeah. But I mean, he's had last name on Armstead. I mean, he's just had top 10 pass blocking grade is all 6 of his seasons, which is pretty remarkable. So, but yep, like him at 4. So now we're gonna crack into the top 3, and it sounds like we have the same 3. I'm curious if they're in the same order.
I'm a little bummed because my number 3 coming up is a guy I was very curious about where you had him, because obviously you punish guys for being hurt for no reason. That makes sense. I said this before we started. Number 1 and 2, depending on the order, were very easy. 1 and 2 were going to be only 2 guys.
Sure.
And when I looked at the list, I was like, man, yeah, I know 1 and 2 who they were. I knew that before I made the ranking. Was like, these other guys had solid years, but can I really justify putting them over the guy I had number year unanimous from all 3 of us last year? Considering he did get hurt, he missed half the season.
Yeah.
But I couldn't, because what? I'm not a guy that punishes people just because they get hurt. Just because you got hurt last year doesn't mean you're going to be aren't going to be awesome next year.
Tyron Smith, didn't you?
That's completely different.
I don't know.
No, stop. Those are 2 guys that have injury history.
All right.
That have been hurt before. This guy's never been hurt up until this season. He also gave up 0 sacks and led his offensive line. Well, he led his offense to the highest rushing yard total from any team the year prior, and led the charge for his quarterback to win the MVP award. So yeah, I know I'm talking about something that happened 2 years ago, but obviously he got hurt last year, so there's not too much to talk about for his last season. But I went with our unanimous number one as on my number 3 lineman this year, and it's just because he got hurt last year, and that was Ronnie Stanley.
I also have Ron Stanley at number 3.
Fair enough. I was going to kill you on it if he wasn't top 5, and I wasn't sure. I gave you the benefit of the doubt of this one. I was like, you know what? We unanimously made him number 1. There's no way he's going to put him out of the top 5 this year just because he got hurt.
There's that, like, right?
Because as you say, you hate guys with an injury history that are old, as we've seen with Chandler Jones and Von Miller. You love old guys, but unless they have an injury history. Sure. And Ronnie Stanley's a young player. He's one of the young.
He's like 28. He's
a top 10 NFL player, I think, when he's healthy.
Yeah. I mean, he was our, like you said, unanimous number 1 last year just because of how phenomenal he was and how great that offense was in Baltimore. And I was shocked to see, like, same thing with like Tyron Smith. I was shocked to see how far they dropped on like other professional analyst boards. Like, they didn't have him in the top 5 in a lot of these. And like, because he was hurt he missed half a season because he had an injury, and he's been phenomenal up until then. Like, you can't just, what kind of like reputation do you want to have if you're going to drop a player off like that? But I don't know. I mean, I did that with Chandler Jones, but he's also in his.
I was going to say, you were just a living contradiction because you've done this many times.
Well, I still had him, I gave my reasons. But Ronnie Stanley, I think, is, like you said, hasn't really had too many injury concerns at all. So I don't see why he won't bounce back. I mean, they did lose. Who did they lost?
Orlando Brown.
Or Brown, yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other. I mean, like I was saying, you realize how important offensive lineman is when he gets hurt and he's gone.
Yeah.
But the Ravens just had the advantage that they had, I think, a very, as a guy I was considering for honorable mention, offensive tackle playing on the right side in Orlando Brown, and they just moved him over to the left side, and I thought he did a great job there. And I think he's going to be in a great situation where he goes to the Chiefs, and now he's going to play that left tackle spot. And obviously he made his trade demand, and you can never blame a guy. He wanted to get paid, and he knew that left tackles get paid more, and he felt that he could be a very good left tackle. And after filling in for Ronnie Stanley, you kind of feel like he's probably right. And let's be honest, he knew it. Everyone else knew in the league. The left tackle spot's going to be occupied Ronnie Stanley. Ronnie Stanley got the bag. He's one of the best in that. We had him as the best when he was healthy. Yeah. He's not going anywhere. So I don't blame the guy. I thought it worked out for all teams involved. The Ravens got a first-round pick for a guy that was probably going to leave anyway when he was a free agent. The Chiefs got a much-needed upgrade in their offensive line. And Orlando Brown gets to be left tackle. So I think it was a good trade for all involved. I'm excited to see what he does, but that's you could tip your hat to Ronnie Stanley. He was the reason that Orlando Brown went to a new team, because he was like, you know what? I want another opportunity, and I know it's not going to happen here because I have a superstar on the other side of the line that's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And for everyone listening, if you didn't know, the reason left tackles tend to get paid more than right tackles is because I would say 75-90% of quarterbacks are right-handed. So the left side of the line is their blind side. So you want the better offensive tackle to be your left tackle, because you want the least amount of pressure coming at the blind side of the quarterback. So
catch up, Dakota. I've already mentioned this many times that the left tackles have an advantage. They get the best pass rush and they block the blind side. That's why I bumped my right tackle guys a little lower. But nonetheless,
just let the people know.
Nonetheless,
just let them know.
Moving to number 2, and like I said before, I even thought about doing my rankings. I knew wanted to. You could flip your coin, honestly, if you wanted to on these guys. I wouldn't hear an argument too much.
Okay, fair enough.
Just because obviously one's a little older, but let's be honest. Before he went on my number 2, before he went on his, I don't even know what it's called, sabbatical. I hate my employer. Whatever you want to say, whatever you want to.
I think it technically was a sabbatical.
Yeah, it was a mixture of, a medical leave, but I also double birds up to my boss.
Yeah, also F Washington.
Yeah, DC. So I mean, I had him at number 10 last year, and that was because mostly we knew he wasn't going to play. We knew, well, he missed the season before and he was going to the Niners. We didn't fully know what to expect from him because he missed the season before. But let's be honest, this is an elite left tackle. This is a walking Hall of Famer. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer when he does decide to hang it up. Yeah, I mean, do you want to go into the laundry list of awards that he has? Like this This guy has been anchoring a line on a very, let's say, inconsistent team for his career when he was with Washington. But he's an 8-time Pro Bowler, and he was a Pro Bowler this season. He's 32 years old, so sure, you can hold that to him. But when it comes to run blocking, he was arguably the best offensive lineman in run block. He was the number 1 graded offensive tackle for PFF. He just narrowly beated my number 1 guy, and I would assume yours, by 0.1. But when it comes to run blocking, he was a 91.8, which was the highest grade in the NFL. With, ironically, his teammate, Mike McGlinchey, was number 2. That just kind of shows you the versatility of Kyle Shanahan offenses. But to miss a year and come in and just be dominant, and Trent Williams is a guy who I've always seen as one of the better pass protectors his own career, and then to come into a run first system and then now become the best run blocking offensive tackle is extremely impressive. The system Kyle Shanahan, I would say, well, he did cut a couple of years when Shanahan was in Washington, but it's a different system to walk into when you've been, a premier left tackle, pass blocking tackle, and then go in a run first system. But guy didn't miss a beat. His pass blocking is still elite. He was 85 overall grade. I think that was even top 10 as well. So this guy's a superstar. His age and his future was the only thing that kind of held me back. And the fact that my number 1 is arguably the best pass blocking offensive lineman in the league. And let's be honest, offensive tackles are pass blocking, heavy. That's kind of what they make their bread and butter off of. Yeah. That's why I edged my for number 1 guy ahead of Trent Williams.
Fair enough. So yeah, I also had Trent Williams number 2. Our list is this is one of the most similar top 10 lists we've had in a while. I feel like
I hate it. You know what? This has got to be one of the shortest episodes we had too. It just shows you how much arguing.
I think it's still going to be close to an hour, but
I miss the arguing.
That's the thing though with tackles. Like I feel like there isn't too much arguing because it's pretty like I was texting you, like top 15 is easy. Like it's not like receivers or anything like that where like you could throw in some names here and there. It's like it's pretty clear who the best tackles in the league are.
Yeah.
And like you said, yeah, Trent Williams, I had him at 7 last year. And then, that whole debacle he had with Washington and then finally got out, finally got healthy and showed everyone, that he's still one of the fucking best. So,
without a doubt.
Yeah, number 2 for Trent Williams. And I really didn't know where to put him to start. Because I was like, do I put him really high or do I have him like 5 or 6? And I was like, no, he's got to be number 2. Because I know who my number 1 was. Number 1 was the easiest one to pencil in. But
it is extremely impressive, considering he's not an old guy.
And to enter a whole new system too.
Just to roll in, and like I said, he has been in Shanahan's system before in Washington. But again, it's been a couple of years since he's been in Shanahan's system, and to take a year off and then just come in and immediately, you're not good. You are elite. He was easily one of the best offensive tackles in football last year. It's not even close. Like he just came in and dominated. Would say
he was the number 2 best tackle. I mean,
yeah, and you know what? He got the bag. He got a well-deserved bag. The Niners. Yeah. I mean, the Niners, I would say, took a flyer on him, but come on, you knew this guy was awesome. It's just imagine. Yeah, this wasn't a flyer. This was them bringing in a Hall of Famer and just assuming he would keep doing what he's already done before. But I'll let you bring this one up first because I'll give you this. While your Ramscheck at number 9 last year, after arguably one of the best offensive lineman seasons in a while, was completely inexcusable. I will admit that my David Bakatari at 6 last year may have been undervalued. Really? He came out and dominated, especially as a pass blocker this year, and proved it again. I think excelling after the year before. So I'll let you have this one because you were ahead of me on this by a year. So go ahead. Who's your number 1?
Actually, real quick before that, just out of curiosity. So one last thing on Trent Williams. So we have, obviously, in the NFC East, we've had Trent Williams with Washington, Tyron Smith with Cowboys, and Lane with the Eagles. Who of those do you think that the rankings as they are right now is how we would have thought they'd play out, with Trent being the best, Tyron Smith arguably second, and then Lane at 3rd?
What do you mean? Just from this year or general careers? Or I see, if you talk about consistency, because obviously Trent Williams doesn't really have too much of an injury history. Mm-hmm. Like he is, before the sabbatical / fuck my bosses, I don't, he constantly played games. Like if he was missing games, the least amount of games he played was 10 in a season. That's considering he's had a longer career than both Lane and Tyron. I think that it was weird because the Tyron and Trent Williams careers overlapped and they played the same position of left tackle. I definitely think there was a couple of years where Tyron Smith was better than Trent Williams, because I think Tyron Smith was the best offensive tackle in football and when he was at his prime.
Yeah, he was.
So I would say that, at his peak, maybe Tyron Smith had him beat, but the consistency that Trent Williams has given you, and now this resurgence, like he just got the highest paid contract for any offensive lineman in NFL history. He's not going anywhere. He's going to dominate this list, where we have Lane Johnson and Tyron Smith in the bottom end of the top 10 because we don't know what their career is going to look like going forward with their injury history. So career-wise, I would say it's Trent Williams, Tyron Smith, Lane Johnson. Mostly because Trent Williams been his durability and his consistency. And I give him a boost from he's the only one of those three guys that has left his team, gone to a new team, and just dominated.
Yeah.
And you got to give him credit. We said this with Jack Conklin. Going to another team and being really good, you got to give him credit. Like, that's hard to go to a new system like that. Coming off when he missed a year, I think it's even more impressive he missed an entire year, came out and just dominated. So that's my order if you're looking at careers from those three.
All right. Yeah, I would probably go. I'd probably go Tyron Smith, Trent Williams, Lane. But
fair enough. Because I will admit, when you're talking prime to prime, like their peak, I do think Tyron Smith was better than Trent Williams. But if you factor in the consistency, the injuries, and the fun, honestly, I mean, let's ask this question again next year or maybe a year after that. I think Trent Williams is going to continue absolutely dominating in the system he's in. Now he's shown this just elite run blocking.
They're all
ability.
Around the same age too, so.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
32, 31.
He's in a great system. His run blocking skills are impressive, and especially in that Shanahan-led offense, they'll be perfectly fine.
All right, and that's a wrap on Trent Williams at number 2. So Tim and I have the exact same top 3, and our number 1. Who was my number 2 last year and then had an even better year. So now he's number 1 because that's how math works. It's David Bakhtiari of the Green Bay Packers. He's just consistent. I mean, I had him so high, number 2 last year, where you had him at what, 6?
6, yes.
Because, he's shown how good he is, past few years. And then, he even built on top of that. Bakhtiari's run blocking last in 2019 or 2019-2020 season was a 69.7. This past season, it went up by 17 points, and they gave him an 86.7 rating. So he was already an elite level player, and he improved on one of his weaknesses. And now he's a super. What was the most common thing I said about these top 5 linemen? Consistent, and they're well-rounded, meaning that they can pass block and run block extremely well. So Bakhtiari has the whole package, grades out to a 91.6 pass blocking, 91.8 overall. He's just a beast. And for all the, crap we give the Packers organization for not supporting Aaron Rodgers, at the end of the day, he has a top 10 running back, a top 10 receiver, and a top 10 running back, one of the best, if not the best receiver, and one of the best, if not the best, tackles on offense. So
I was going to say they're both unanimous number 1s in our rankings. Adams
and Rodgers was number 2 in our list. So
it's true. I
listen, shit together, Green Bay.
I definitely hear you there. And hey, I mean, and it's funny because I think people just they think all right, Aaron Rodgers is elite. He's a veteran quarterback, because kind of like what I said with Brady. Brady's so smart, he gets the ball out of his hands before any pressure comes. Rodgers is different. Rodgers is a veteran quarterback that's very smart, but he'll hold on to the ball because he will let it develop, and he will throw a beautiful dime 80 yards down the field or 60 yards down the field. He's got the best Hail Mary ball and deep ball, I think, in the NFL. So he'll hold on to the ball, and he needs elite protection to hold him up. Dave Bakhtiari is easily the number 1 pass blocking offensive line in my mind. Easily. He's coming off an all-pro season. He was number 1 or number 2 overall on PFF. Yeah, it's hard to hate on his game. He's so good. And the fact that with the quarterback that he plays with, who does have a tendency to hold on to the ball, is even more impressive. Yeah, it's more impressive. So
only 1 sack given up too.
Yeah, he is awesome. He's definitely deserved it. And I may have said, I may have had him in 6. It's fine. These things happen. We
If
learn.
I remember correctly, you were something along the lines of you didn't see the hype, is what you were saying.
Well, hey,
So.
I mean, I saw the hype a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen. These things happen. We educate. Don't forget you had Ramscheck in number 9.
I will say Ramscheck at 9 was
idiotic
off base, but well, let's see. What did you have Ramscheck at last year?
I think I had a number 2.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mean, coming off the season
6,
he had.
So we're 3 spots off. I had him at 9. You had him at 2. I had, Bakatari at 6. Now he's at 2. Or you had him at 6. I had him at 2. So.
And you know what? I'll give him this because this is what I actually killed Bakatari on last year, and I deservingly so.
Penalties, right?
Yeah, because he had 11 of them.
Cut it down to what, 4?
He did cut it down to 4. That was the biggest issue. You can't 11 penalties. That is terrible. That's that 6 holding. 6 holdings, the penalties.
The holdings.
6 holding penalties is 6 sacks.
But the holding's rough, yeah.
The way I look at it is 6 holding penalties is 6 sacks.
It is, 10 yards. I mean.
And don't get me wrong, he had 2 sacks allowed, 6 holding penalties go on, plus 5 false starts. That's too much. That's almost one every other game, He cut it down to 4, which is a huge drop-off. 11 was the leading penalty markers for this year. Jedrick Wills led the league with 11 penalties this year. So David Bakatari went from the lead leaguer to 4 penalties, and that's why he's number 1. He deserved to be a number 6, and he cleaned up the issues I had with him. Fair. I'll give him this. Listen, maybe I was unfair at 6, but he had some stuff that definitely deserved to keep him out of the top 5. The penalties being the big one. There was the consistency. It was different, but now it's obvious. He's such a good pass blocker. He's elite. He heard my concerns. He's a fan of this podcast, obviously, and he went and just fixed that.
He's been pretty elite since he got in the league, but
yeah. Well, listen, top 6. Don't get me wrong. Top 6. Don't get this twisted. Is elite. Okay. Just because he's 6 doesn't mean he's elite. So that's why I had number 1. And again, listen, he fixed the issue that I was the biggest critic of. And 11 penalties last year would have led the league, this year. So that was something that had to be adjusted, and he did. And he got hats off to him. I'm very impressed. And he cut it down by a lot, cut it more than a half. So very good. I got to say one other thing. Did we just have the same exact top 10 players, just in a different order? But I was just
thinking, I was like, have we had a top 10 that's been the exact same players yet? And
I honestly hate it.
I don't think we have.
This is awful.
I mean, I had who was it? Taylor Lewan and Mitchell Schwartz were taken out. Schwartz obviously because he's still a free agent, and then Lewan just because he's
those are the only 2 players I took out. But yeah,
we both took out the same players, and we both had the same list. That's nuts.
Offense tackles, I'll say this: the consistency's easier. It's because there's not as many stats, so it's hard. You could look at stats, and I'll use myself as a bad example. I remember I had Kenny Golladay at number 10, and the big criticism was I had him over Odell, which I still stand by. Odell's not a top 10 wide receiver, but Kenny Golladay led the league in touchdowns, and he had 18 or 17 over 2 years, and he was a great touchdown machine. Is Kenny Golladay a top 10 receiver? Definitely not. But you can contort the stats to say something then, instead of what it actually is. Offensive tackles is a little harder. It's what it is,
Yeah.
They usually, to be a good offensive tackle, you usually have to be on a good team. You'll notice the theme with our list is most of them are on good teams, besides for a couple, but most good teams have a good offensive line. And then you base around but Bakatari, he was the left tackle to a MVP winning quarterback. The Browns had the leading rushing attack last year, and I had one of their linemen there. It's just, it's success kind of equals out for the offensive lineman. So it's kind of hard to, get behind something and take a stat and contort it to make it sound a little bit better than it actually is. So I hate the fact
that you.
What can I say, Mr. Vocab? I hate the fact that we had 10 guys all the same in different orders. There was very minimal arguing. I don't like that.
I mean, not even different orders though, because top 3 was the same. 4 and 5 were pretty close to your 5 and 6.
We had the same 8, 9, 10, just in different orders.
We had to say, yeah. So really, it was just Jack Conklin and who was it? It was Ramscheck, Tunzel, and Conklin were the little deviations, but
I don't. Wow. So we had the same.
Either we're both really smart or we're both really stupid. So I don't know.
I could definitely tell you, I always saw myself as being on the smart side and you on the other side. But now that we matched up, I can't really bring you down.
Jesus.
But hey, all right, you know what? Listen, this was good. This was peaceful. It's good to have a peaceful episode every once in a while. You know,
it's not as fun.
I know. Trust me, I use this as my therapy session. Just yell at you over stupid stuff.
Classic. Well, all right. It was a good list for what it was worth. So
it was a good list. So hey, we're here. Preseason games are over. 3-game preseason is finished.
Yeah, I forgot that it was only 3 this year, and I was like looking up the Eagles' 4th game because I barely got to watch any of the 3rd game.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single preseason game, and obviously, you know, we were supposed to go to that open practice. It got canceled for a make-believe hurricane.
Yeah,
it's tough, but hey,
what can you do?
We're almost there. We got one more position group, and then we do our preview, and then baby, it's time. It's time for some NFL Sundays.
I just can't wait to hear Al Michaels' sweet voice again. It just because that'll be it. That'll be how I know I'm back.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I'm ready for, was it September 7th or 8th is the first Thursday game of the season. So
we've got 2 episodes before that, and I'm excited. We got the safeties to finish, and then obviously my favorite episode every year. I like the season preview because I like to run it back and see where I was correct and where we were wrong. It's been a pleasure as always.
All right, peace out.
Peace.